Welcome to a world with limitless possibilities. A world where pain and suffering are matched only by the sounds of those who endure it. Welcome to your nightmare.
Welcome to your nightmare.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Nightmare. Every house has its own unique acoustic footprint. The creak of a specific floorboard, the rhythmic thumping of the pipes, the low hum of an old refrigerator cycling on and off in the dark. We can get used to these background noises that our brains tune them out completely. We call it settling. We tell ourselves it's just the wood expanding or the wind hitting the glass. But what if the sounds you're hearing aren't passive? What if the house isn't just settling? What if it's mimicking you? Tonight we're spinning a slow burn tale about a son clearing out his late father's workbench, an old green cassette recorder, and a tape that holds a live reflection of reality. This is a story that relies heavily on the things hiding in the stereo field. So if you really want to feel the experience tonight, I highly recommend putting on a pair of headphones. Get comfortable, turn down the lights, and let's press play. Grief isn't a grand sweeping wave. It's just tedious. It's spending a Saturday night alone in a drafty house, sorting through a dead man's life, one piece of junk at a time. My father never threw anything away. After he passed, it fell on me to clean out the place. Every broken bracket, every stripped bolt, every empty paint can. He saved them all like he was building a physical armor around this house. He was a machinist by trade, a man who believed everything could be fixed if you just applied enough torque or structural reinforcement. But walking through these rooms now, the reinforcements feel manic. There are double deadbolts on windows that face nothing but a brick wall. There are extra support joists in the basement ceilings that don't align with any load-bearing walls upstairs. It's exhausting. By hour 6 of packing, the silence in an empty house starts playing tricks on you. Anyone who has ever spent a night alone in a dead relative's home knows what I mean. The walls hold on to the day's heat and contract at night. The wood sighs, the plumbing knocks. You find yourself talking back to the quiet, saying, "I know," to the draft under the door. I pulled the bottom drawer of his old workbench completely off its rollers to reach a jammed hinge, and that's when I saw it. Tucked away in the back, wrapped in an old, oily shop rag, was a heavy military green portable tape recorder. A heavy-duty vintage 1970s cassette deck. It was covered in a fine layer of drywall dust, but when I picked it up it felt solid, substantial. Inside the plastic window, a single cassette tape was already loaded. No label, just a strip of masking tape, stuck to the plastic with 3 words written in my dad's blocky, hurried handwriting. "Do not erase." I expected a voice memo, a grocery list, maybe a forgotten recording of my mother from before she passed. But when the tape started spinning, there was no voice. It was just the ambient noise of a house. I actually smiled when I heard it. The plumbing, the same stubborn knocking pipe in the upstairs bathroom that used to wake me up when I was a kid. It felt comforting. A piece of the past, preserved in iron and magnetic tape. My dad must have left the recorder running on his workbench while he worked on a project. I sat down at the old laminate kitchen table, poured myself a glass of rye from the bottle I found hidden behind the water heater, and just listened. It felt like time travel. That was me, I must have been 10 or 11, playing in the backyard. I took another sip of my drink, watching the little plastic gears of the cassette spin around and around. But then the laundry cycle ended on the tape. The washing machine clicked off. The distant laughter stopped, and the recorded house grew completely quiet.
Day 412. The frequency is shifting. It's moving out of the floor joists and into the drywall. I can hear it mimicking the refrigerator compressor now. If Gina hears it, she'll think it's just the appliance cycling on. But the rhythm is wrong. It's breathing in triplets. It's learning how we sound.
I set my glass down hard. My father's voice on the tape sounded manic, terrified, a tone he never used when I was growing up. He was always the rock, the fixer. Hearing him whisper like a frightened animal in the dark made the skin on my arms prickle. I reached my hand out toward the deck, my thumb hovering over the fast forward button. I wanted to skip past it. I wanted to find a spot where he sounded like himself again.
Don't touch the deck, son.
My hand froze an inch from the plastic buttons. My breath hitched in my throat. I stared at the spinning reels of the tape.
I know you're sitting at the laminate table. I know you're drinking the rye hid behind the water heater. I knew you'd come back to clear out the place after I was gone. I built this tape for you, because by the time you're listening to this, I'll be down there, and it will be up there with you.
This was a recording. It had to be. It was a cassette tape found in a dusty drawer. My brain scrambled for logic. He was guessing. He knew my habits. He knew I liked rye. He knew I'd have to clean the house. It was just a coincidence. A terrifyingly accurate psychological trick from a man who had lost his mind at the end. I decided to prove it to myself. I stood up from the chair. I took 3 steps across the kitchen floor toward the hallway. I stopped. The tape stopped. I reached out and grabbed a ceramic mug off the counter. I held it out, my fingers trembling violently, and I let it drop. It wasn't recording the past. It wasn't predicting the future. The tape was dictating reality, or reality was folding in on itself, trapping me in the audio track. I bolted the front door. I grabbed the heavy brass handle and threw my weight against it. The deadbolt wouldn't even turn. I screamed, hammering my fists against the wood, but the sound that came out of my mouth felt muffled, dry, like I was shouting into a thick layer of insulation. I stumbled backward, away from the door, retreating into the hallway. The kitchen cassette player was still running, the sound echoing through the empty house, louder now, sweeter. I covered my ears, but his voice wasn't coming from the kitchen anymore. It was coming from the baseboards, from the vents, from the space behind my own teeth. I knew that sound. It was the crawl space door in the back corner of the garage. The one my father had reinforced with 3 separate padlocks. On the tape, something was climbing out. I can hear it. It's in the house. It's passing the workbench. It's entering the kitchen. I ran into the bathroom, the only room left with a working lock. I slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, and pressed my back against the wood, sliding down to the floor. I pulled my knees to my chest. The tape deck in the kitchen was screaming now, a feedback loop of high-pitched squeals and distorted static that vibrated right through the wall. And then, the static on the tape dropped out entirely. Left in its place was a perfect, crystalline silence.
It's standing right outside the bathroom door.
I held my breath. I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to make a sound. But on the tape, I heard myself breathe. And then, right outside the real door, a split second before it happened on the cassette, I heard the brass doorknob slowly begin to turn. For our next story, I'm going to be covering another tale from the Holder series. This one is called The Holder of Salvation. In any city, in any country, go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. When you reach the front desk, ask with no hesitation to visit someone who calls herself the Holder of Salvation. The clerk will give a knowing smile and beckon for you to follow. You will be led outside to an old and run-down well with quite a few stones missing, and the clerk will give you a key before returning to his post. If you should look into the well, you will find that an old, rusted ladder descends into its seemingly endless depths. Should you choose to climb down, you will hear the wind as it blows past you. It may sound to you like a heavenly dirge or the hellish wails of the damned. There is no way of knowing which you will hear. Should the wind stop at any time, freeze, even if it leaves you hanging on by one hand, for it means that an unspeakably hellish creature has entered the shaft. If you stay perfectly still and are very lucky, you will feel the wind of its passing. However, if you should hear its bestial growl, you would be wise to let yourself fall and hope that the bottom of the shaft reaches you before the creature does. After the beast has passed, wait a good minute before continuing your descent. You will soon lose sight of the opening of the shaft. Don't bother trying to light up the shaft, for this darkness swallows all light. After what seems like an eternity, you will reach the bottom of the shaft. And remember the touch of light, as there is a single candle down here. As you look around, you will see that you are in a small room, only slightly wider than the well shaft you just survived. There will be a single wooden door, nondescript and aging, across from where you landed. Don't bother looking for the ladder, for it has disappeared. Approach the door and knock thrice, lightly. Should you hear nothing, pray for a swift death, for there is no escape what awaits you now. However, if you should hear a woman's voice say, "Come in, dear, I have been waiting for you," then open the door and slowly enter. You will find yourself in a room no bigger than a closet. A beautiful young woman sits across from you on what will appear to be an aged chest. She will only answer to one question. If they are brought together, what can save us? She will then proceed to describe in horrifying detail the only way to stop them once they are united. Many give up hope in this room, but you must not let that happen. For if you do, the woman will reveal her true form, and your death will be both long and painful, beyond mortal comprehension. If you should survive, the woman will let loose an unearthly wail and disappear, leaving only the chest. The key you were given earlier will open it. What lies in that chest is Object 64 of 538. It is up to you whether it should join its kin. As to the tale the woman tells, let this guard against her despair. If what she says comes to pass, the three damaged will survive and start again. That is all for this episode of Nightmare. As always, I appreciate everyone for joining me for these tales tonight. If you have any story suggestions, please reach out to me at nightmarepod@gmail.com. And don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until next time, sleep well.